Good turn what, driving it? Or,
They got this, I think your dad started this, he found this deal on this travel trailer. The kind you hook up to a hitch on the back of your car,
okay.
okay? It was like a 20-footer or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea was that each of the Scott brothers would take a week or 2
Their
weeks
family.
for a family vacation,
Mhm.
and you'd go out west and
Yeah,
go to Yellowstone
Mm-hmm.
and
Wherever you wanted to
Yosemite,
do.
Yeah.
wherever you wanted to go.
They owed it to show the kids the country before we all graduated from high school and went
Yeah.
our own way. So that's about the time that, you know, I was like 16 years old at the time.
Uh-huh.
You know, so you would have been, you know, like the same. I mean, all three of us were about the same age.
Yeah, but I didn't go out in the Navy.
Oh, you were already in the Navy? by
See, I
that
was
time?
I was a freshman in college at the
Okay.
time, so
No,
you and I were
no,
both.
I ended up going to college I started the same year you did.
Are you sure you don't remember
Yeah.
being in college?
Oh, I remember being in college.
No,
I'm
I
saying,
mean when you went out west.
I think this is before I graduated from high school that all this took place. So, I mean, I ended up driving the car
Yeah.
some, you know, and I think I just had my driver's license not that far before.
Pat, that's up against the wood, that chair.
But anyway, doesn't really matter. You know, I'm not sure where this was all heading, but you know, we ended up getting the car on the third trip for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know, whenever, you know, I think we bought the car, or let's just say the brothers brought the car, you know, sometime in May. We ended up getting it like the first part of August, and already had like 25,000 miles on it. So, you know, we ended up, I was driving the car out in Iowa whenever the engine blew on it. I mean, I saw the temperature gauge going up. I was driving, you know, at 16, and I saw the temperature gauge going up, and I, you know, said something to my father about it. He says, "Well, we've got to get a place to get off the road," and there was no place to get off the road. I mean, it was like down and up, down and up. It was like out in western Iowa, and there was no berm on the road. And like say, you know, you get down for maybe a quarter of a mile and have to go up a quarter of a mile. And before I could find a place to pull off the road, the engine blew. So we ended up pulling up, you know, we got towed into a place in western Iowa, and they diagnosed that, you know, we needed a new engine, which, you know, I could have told them, you know, we needed a new engine. And, you know, but we're in this little town in western Iowa. There's no, you know, there was no place that we wanted to stay there. And, you know, we realized we were not, you know, we realized very quickly that we were not going to have a car for like almost like another 10 days.
Jeez.
Because this was on a Friday afternoon. They had to call ahead to Kansas City. That's where the engine was going to come from, but it wasn't going to come until like Thursday of the following week. So, you know, we ended up renting a car off the guy that ended up was the repair facility. We ended up renting a car, drove ahead to Colorado, and we ended up coming back. You know, to end up get the vehicle. We picked it up, and you know, we ended up having another problem just outside of Las Vegas. You know, so we ended up getting the new heads. We ended up getting the heads on the new engine ground down. You know, so then we said, you know, what's the best way to go towards California? You know, is there any way of let's just say ensuring the fact that we can get to California, which is going across the desert? And they said, well, probably the best thing you could do is probably start out about 10:30 at night and try to take it, you know, when it's cool. And you know, again, when we started going up the long hills out of Las Vegas, the engine failed again. We had to call. Okay, when we first pulled off the roads, you know, a tow truck shows up. They say, you know, you think you need some help? And we said, well, we probably do, but, you know, we won't know for maybe another hour or so. So we ended up starting the car up an hour later, you know, 2 miles down the road, you know, it overheated already. So we ended up getting towed for like 120 miles to Barstow, California.
You got towed that far?
Yeah, got towed that far. They ended up resurfacing the heads on the engine that was just like about 2 days old. So
You had a tow job.
what it was back in those days, you know, but I'm
Yeah, it
telling
wasn't
you,
cheap.
even back in those days.
Yeah, especially you got a
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was, you know, that was quite an ordeal. I mean, if it was up to me, being a young kid, I'd have just as soon sold the whole damn thing and ended up flying back home. I mean, we like the first 10 or 12 days that we were on the road, you know, we were in a repair facility like 8 out of the total days.
And what kind of car was that?
It was a Ford. It was a
Ford.
Ford station wagon. So that you know, didn't work out so well. We ended up apparently, I think the Scots got quite a refund, you know, because we had to pay for all this stuff too, you know. So we ended up getting quite a refund for it. But
From who? Refund?
from Ford Motor Company.
Ford?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was their car. It was brand new. You know, it was a car that was still under. You know, I guess it was out of warranty by the time we had it. But you know, it was so new, and I think they wanted to keep the Scott Brothers business. And we ended up getting reimbursed for some of it. But you know, it basically took what should have been a long trip, and we ended up maybe seeing half of what we wanted to see. And, you know, we basically started home from San Francisco, and you know, we made it in like 4 days back to home. You know, but it was nothing but driving. There was no sightseeing at all.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah,
I had forgotten how much, I remember you had all, a lot of trouble.
we had all kind of major.
So how do you even get help in those days? You're just stuck waiting for somebody to come by, go into the next town, get you a tow
Yeah,
truck?
well, you know, when you end up leaving Las Vegas, there's tow trucks all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like vultures out there.
'Cause of the heat that's killing the cars.
It's a desert, and it's also very your amount of altitude that you have to drive up is probably about 6,000 or 7,000.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting towed 120 miles ahead to Barstow, California.
You guys remember the Dill brothers
Yeah.
down on Bud Street?
Two little guys. They were Cracker Jack mechanics.
And they couldn't, neither of them weighed 100 pounds, I don't think.
No, they were skinny little
They were
bastards.
tiny, they were short, and they were skinny. They could crawl right into an engine compartment,
Yeah.
you know, but
If I remember correctly, they looked like they were made in oil.
that's right. They were,
Yeah,
that's
they're-
exactly right. They were.
Look underneath her fingernails.
Oh, yeah.
But they used to go down, the Scott brothers relied on the Dill brothers for, you know, taking care of things. Remember that old International truck, the 4-wheel drive truck that they used for a snowplow on?
They
Remember
opened
that?
the roads up with that.
That was a hell of a truck. I remember driving that. You had to double clutch it to shift gears. Remember that?
I don't remember double clutching it, but I remember in the snow, they drove up and down the street and opened the street up.
And that thing had a low gear that was genuinely a creeper. You could start from here and go to that door frame, which is about 10 feet away, and it would be wound out. It was literally a creeper. But man, that thing was powerful. four-wheel drive international truck, and it made a whole lot of racket too. It was loud as heck. But my favorite story about the Dill brothers is my dad had that big Oldsmobile, that big white Oldsmobile. It was an Oldsmobile '88. I forgot what year it was. And by this time, I was already in Kentucky, and Dad had decided that he was going to trade it in for his Cadillac. He wanted to get the Cadillac that he had dreamed of his whole life. So he took it down to the Cadillac dealer, the Oldsmobile. He was going to trade it in, and he figured it was still a pretty good car. And the first part of the story was he decided he had to get it sort of shipped it. So he took it down to Dill Brothers. That's back when you had to have the inspection sticker. And he took it back because it needed to get the inspection sticker. So he goes down to the Dill Brothers, and they said, Frank, we can't approve this. He said, what's wrong with it? He said, well, it's got holes in the fenders bigger than a quarter. And back then, the Pennsylvania law was that you couldn't have that. The body had to be in a certain reasonable shape. So Dad says, well, what do I do about it? And one of the Dill brothers said, well, Frank, you just get some patching cement. You patch it in there.
I remember that story.
Let it dry overnight, and then you sand it down on the outside to make it smooth, and then you get some white paint that matches the body paint and paint it, and then he said you bring it back to me, and I can approve it.
Approved to what, sell it?
To get an inspection sticker, Pennsylvania inspection sticker on the window.
Okay.
So Dad does this, and gets the inspection sticker, and this was not very much longer after that. I needed a second car. Kathy and I only had one vehicle. She was working, I was working, and we only had one vehicle, so it was a pain in the ass. So he decided he was going to give me the Oldsmobile, because when he took it to trade it in the Cadillac dealership, the Cadillac dealer says, I'll give you $1,500 in trade for it. And Dad said, $1,500? The hell you will. I'll give it to my son before I give it to you for $1,500. Because he thought it was worth a lot of money. And so Kathy and I ended up inheriting this Oldsmobile. Dad drove the Oldsmobile down, and my mother drove their other car down. And they spent the week with us, and then they both go on back home and leave the Oldsmobile there. So I had the Oldsmobile there, and he said as he was leaving, he said, oh, by the way, it takes high test gas. Okay, so I thought, well, okay, I got a free car, I'm not gonna bitch about having to put high test gas in it. So we kept it for a while, and that was only about 3 months later. Bub and Dad came back to visit us in Kentucky and he says to me, how's the car running? And I said to him, well, it's really smooth. I mean, it's really smooth. And I said, but it takes a lot of gas. And I checked the mileage, it only gets 9 miles per gallon. And he starts laughing. And then in the meantime, John had figured out that after the Dill brothers said get some patching cement, Dad went to Stanbaugh Thompson's or someplace and got 2 80-pound bags of Saccharin. Goes in there, opens the trunk up in the back, takes the lining out of the trunk, and he pours 80 pounds of concrete in the fender. Okay? Sands it down, he paints it white, and it looks fine on the outside.
I mean, did he put it in a powder form, or did he?
No, he mixed it.
Yeah,
He mixed it up.
Okay.
He mixed it all up.
Okay.
John told finally ended up telling the story about how he did this, you know. So I'm hearing the story about this concrete in the fenders. Well, that explains why it's so damn smooth. You go over to railroad tracks, you didn't feel shit. I mean, it was smooth, baby. But I thought to myself, man, the fender was already partly rusted out. There's 80 pounds of concrete in there. I could be killing somebody behind me if that thing, if the last of the steel gives way, that the boulder goes out. But so, yeah, and he was like that with anything he wanted to fix. You know, he's Rube Goldberg.
Yep.
But yeah, the Dill brothers said, Frank, you just get some pesos. He did.
I heard a story, and I can't tell where it came from, about your dad wanting to buy a Cadillac, and the brothers saying, don't buy a damn Cadillac. You drive a Cadillac, people saw you, they say, look at that rich bastard.
Mhm.
You could buy a Lincoln the same price and drive it, and they wouldn't say
They
it.
wouldn't criticize you.
Yeah, and they talked him out of it at that time. I don't know if you ever.
He
did that.
ended up getting the Cadillac for a while.
So, yeah, that's what his success.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's, yeah, you grow up like they did. You know, poor and doing stuff. He had to drop out of school at 8th grade in order to help support the family. You know, you get to the point where you start you dream about stuff like that.
Now, he wound up doing most of the books for the businesses. Did he ever have any formal education in accounting or anything like that?
He just had a head for it.
Yeah.
And he was a workaholic too. I mean, he didn't do any sports. I mean, that was his life, work.
Mm-hmm.
And when Grandpa Scott was dying, he said, you know, all his sons were there together. He said, Grandpa's last words were, "Boys, stick together."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And of course, when you're the firstborn son in an Italian family, guess who's in charge?
Mm-hmm.
The firstborn son.
Right. So he took that to heart.
Do you have the story of when they were getting ready to build Thornton Hall, and they were trying to change the zoning on them?
I remember that. I can tell you that. I remember that.
I remember part of that. Tell the story. I can't remember the details.
Go ahead.
Once you started a building,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
The board of supervisors or whoever, the government.
Yeah.
So they went down and they had somebody lay.
No, but he found out by word of mouth and whatnot that they're gonna have this board meeting and they're gonna pass this ordinance where you couldn't, in other words, it must have been zoned rural, and it was, the town took it over and now it was residents, you know, so.
Once you had a block laid, what's the block?
The foundation.
One stone.
The foundation.
One-
Cornerstone foundation.
Found it, you know, concrete on
Mhm.
the ground.
No, it was, there's a name for
A
that.
footer.
What'd you say?
A footer. A cornerstone.
footer.
Or
Once you had a footer down, they couldn't stop it. And they had one stone down, 1 footer down,
Yep.
1 stone. And they couldn't stop the alleys from being built.
Did they get a machine operator to clear a spot, or?
didn't he work at night or something like that? I thought I heard.
I know it was a close call, and I think the neighbors around there worked too much.
Well, Emil
Oh, they weren't happy with it.
Culloden was the contractor.
Who?
Emil Culloden
Yeah,
was their contractor.
I remember that, yeah, that name.
I have a copy of that contract for Thornton Hall.
Oh, you do?
Emil Culloden. I have a copy. Dad saved it. I have. And you know, I have that basket that Grandpa Scott started his
Started
produce
to
business.
produce.
I've got the basket.
No, I didn't know. you
How
had
big
that.
is it?
Big sucker.
big damn straw basket, it's that big, big handle on it and so forth, and it's been repaired several times
Hmm.
with, you know, different kinds of reinforcements on it. But that's the way they started, business, door to door.
Mhm.
And Grandpa at first started carrying it, and then he finally got a horse in a wagon. The horse was named Dan.
I didn't know that.
Horse was named Dan, and on Penn Avenue and the neighboring streets down there, the horse was so well trained that the horse knew which houses to stop at.
Hmm.
He would go, you know, maybe 2 houses and then stop because he knew that the third house was going to be a customer. So the horse would go and stop in front of the house, and then Grandpa at first, and then my dad would end up taking using the basket, and then they got their own baskets and cake the stuff up to the lady on the front porch,
Mhm.
and she would pay.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why my dad had to drop out of school and start working was because when Grandpa was doing it by himself, he would go up to do the transaction with the lady, and they'd be up on the porch talking, and neighborhood kids would come steal things off the wagon.
Mhm.
So Dad's first job was watch the wagon.
Hmm.
And that's what he had to do. He had to stay with the wagon. And they had that basket with them, and I inherited the basket. I have it. My son's going to have it
Mhm.
after I'm done. But yeah, just and what we, back then, I mean, we grew up. We worked in our family's businesses before they had, child labor laws wouldn't let you do what we were doing.
Mhm.
In both the produce business and working on farms and Smita farms. I started working on the Smita farms when I was about 10 years old. We'd go out there in the summertime and I'd work in the fields. It was piecework. You know what piecework is?
You paid for
You
each
paid
one.
for so much,
Yeah.
for every piece, or whatever you wanna call it, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd get a penny for a bunch of onions or a bunch of radishes, We'd be on our hands and knees picking these things and wrapping them in, rubber band, throwing them into a big crate, and then put the crate in the truck, take the crate to the wash house, run it through the wash house machine, put it in baskets. The baskets would either go in a truck to the market or go up into storage. And, we do all that. I learned to drive a tractor back then when I was 10 years old. I would, so, we learned the work ethic
Yes.
from our fathers.
I had to drag 100-pound bags of potatoes off the back of the Scott truck, so my dad could carry them out to Reynolds Drive-In, because they sold French fries out there.
Mm.
It was everything I could do to move them 100-pound sacks of potatoes to the back of the truck. He'd put them on his shoulder and take them down the stairs to Reynolds Drive-In, okay? It was everything I could do to get him to the back of that truck before he got back to grab the next one.
And they dealt with so many of those, because I can remember those 100-pound sacks of potatoes on the concrete slab. You go to the dock there was a drive-through section on the first door of the produce terminal. Remember that? Scott Produce Terminal on Penn Avenue. Well,
What are you telling me was there?
When there were like 3 big doors, garage doors, overhead garage doors, when you looked at it from Penn Avenue. The one on the left, there was a drive-through section that went all the way back through the building, and there was another door in the back. I don't think they ever really used it much. But then there was a dock right there, and you'd step up, there were like 5 or 6 steps going up to the dock, which was truck height, you know, about 40 inches off the ground.
Yes,
And then there was like 10 feet of dock area, and then there was this little office that they had there that was probably only about 10 feet long and maybe 5 feet wide, with a desk in it and a calendar with nudes on it.
and I can remember falling through that space, and I thought I killed myself. I fell, and I probably broke ribs, but you didn't say nothing to anybody then. You kept going.
No. And then, right next to the office, there was a path that went back to the cooler door. And on the right side, there was where they stacked potatoes. And I can remember 100-pound sacks of potatoes stacked up, you know, like four stacks high.
Yes.
And I'd get back from Youngstown Market after I had my plate of French fries, and I'd crawl up on top of the potatoes to take a nap.
I would crawl up in there and play up there
Yeah.
on top of them.
And then they had remember the banana room?
Yeah, getting ready to ask.
Remember the banana room was
Under the
elevated?
steps?
They had a truck body elevated. They used to park the jalopy underneath it, and there was stairs going up to it. And they put because they had to hold it at a certain temperature to ripen the bananas.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember that.
They used to have the big long stalks of bananas, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Hanging in there?
Yes.
Okay.
And the banana boxes were those long boxes like that, and you could.
They
you
were
could fit-
white boxes.
They were white boxes.
I remember those.
And
Get
that-
bugs in them?
Huh?
Spiders in them?
No,
prob-
they had to be,
Yep.
they went through some kind of a treatment that would kill the spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a law. They want the spiders.
But you remember how the produce business ended? You remember that whole bit?
About the union?
Strike.
Yes.
They wanted to strike.
There was one guy that they had hired, a driver that they hired, and they ended up firing him because he was, they find him sleeping on the job or stealing or doing something.
I don't remember them firing him, but,
Well, that's how the whole strike started, because they fired this guy because he, you know, I've forgotten what his transgressions were, but it was certainly fireable. And so they fired him. And the union said, you can't fire this guy, he's a member of the union. Teamsters, I guess, at the time. And so they had, I remember the strike, we go down on Penn Avenue, and here they were striking back and forth, walking back and forth with these signs, Scott Brothers, unfair, you know, all this bullshit. And so during this whole period of time, I think that the Scott Brothers were already planning, they are already dealing with the A&P company. So they were already planning to strike some sort of deal because they all recognizes frozen foods are coming. Frozen foods are gonna be the big thing. And they need distributorship. They need a storage facility on which to distribute. And back then, Sharon was still growing, the whole Shenango Valley was still growing. So the market was pretty good for A&P. So they were already talking to A&P at the tail end of the produce business. By this time, they were sick and tired, Scott Brothers were sick and tired of the produce business. Working, 16-hour days and not seeing their kids until Sunday. They'd fall asleep on the damn couch on Sunday, and that was their life. They had enough of that. So what they ended up doing, I remember this distinctly. Dad, I think this was on a Sunday after church. We got, Dad says, okay, everybody in the car. Mom and all 4 of us kids got in the car. We didn't know what's going on. And I think even my mother knew. And where are we going? Well, you'll see. So we drove down to Penn Avenue, and we drove past the terminal building. And here's Uncle Joe and your whole family in the car. Uncle Dan, your family in the car. Uncle Sam in your car. And we're going by. We're driving by, turn around, come back, drive by. And they finally stop. Dad gets out of the car, tells the strikers, you might as well go home. Scott Brothers is no more. Scott Produce is no more. They fixed them. And by this time, they already had some sort of they already had a quote, maybe they even had an accepted offer for the cold storage, cold and ice building, which used to be called the cold and ice building,
Yeah.
which has ended up becoming cold storage building. So that's how they transitioned from that to the storage, to the NP business.
And then they took the money and built the bowling alley.
And they started making some real money. And they realized that this is okay, this is the time to diversify. And so they had some good advice. I think Cy Garvey was their attorney, and I think he was smart enough to give them certain kinds of advice. And of course, Dad was eager to make, do something to improve the lot. So that's when they decided, okay, let's get into the bowling and skating business.
Now you said they were making hand over fist. I thought they sold the business to A&P. They sold the building.
They finally ended up selling, but it was after they were already operating Sharon Cold Storage and Thornton Hall at the same time.
Oh.
And I guess it finally got to the point where they were able to sell one because it became, meanwhile Thornton Hall is growing,
Mm-hmm.
and they decided they're going to expand Thornton Hall and build the addition on Thornton Hall, expand 22 more lanes. By this time, they said, well, bowling is growing, it's paying us good, and we've already made quite a bit of money with the A&P deal and Sharon Cold Storage. Apparently I can remember when they bought that building, the coal and ice building, man, did they go to work on there. That's when they got the Chinos in there, and they were building the coolers with all the tar and the cork.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
They
Yeah.
were doing so much of that themselves.
Yes.
They didn't hire anybody.
No.
Yeah, I remember the scaffolding broke one day, but my father fell, broke his arm. They were dipping them things in tar.
Yeah, and sticking them.
And then nails,
Yes,
pre-planned nails.
yes.
What things were they?
What?
Insulation boards.
Yeah, like
Made out of
styrofoam
cork.
thing.
It wasn't styrofoam, it was about this thick.
It was cork.
It wasn't cork, it was something else. And you dip it in tar and stick it.
So that's what they were making their various rooms out of.
Yeah.
Insulating many of the rooms were already there.
Okay, yeah.
And then they ended up adding the big
building.
metal.
Big aluminum building.
The big
Yeah.
aluminum one.
Yeah,
And luckily it never flooded. When you talk one day, we think it'll float away.
Yeah.
It wouldn't know.
Well,
Oh,
it
all
was-
that shit is there. But I remember.
But then, yeah, that was, we worked there while we were in high school for quite a few years. And I can remember working there at, my first summer out of college.
yeah.
We worked there and I don't know if you were working full-time there at one time. Were you working full-time
So
at
when did you
plant?
start at the GM?
I don't remember when the hell I started at GM.
Okay.
Oh, you were out of the army, right?
Yeah, it's definitely out now. I mean, he had already
You went to
worked-
Youngstown
He had
Youth
already
for-
worked a few years at the cold storage.
I didn't go to Youngstown. I didn't go to college.
I thought you went to Youngstown. Okay.
I thought you learned to type and stuff like that, and that's what got you into General Motors.
Let me think if I can recall the story on that. Somebody asked me to type something. And I asked, what do you want me to type? And I'll never forget this. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Thank God. And there was no capital letters, and I just banged it out. And I got a job.
Had you already typed previously or not?
Courses in high school or something?
I don't know where the hell I learned how to type.
Okay.
So I learned
you
that
had you were somewhat trained as a typist.
Yeah, I knew how to
That same
type.
thing in typing class in high school,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
I-
what.
That's probably it.
I took typing in high school.
And
Yeah.
that phrase had every letter except Z in it,
Is that right?
and that's why typists use that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Every good man
Now is the time.
Now is the time for
Now's
all
a good man.
Now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country.
So who said that?
That was a typing drill.
No, that was
Yeah.
a famous saying for one general.
Oh.
John F. Kennedy or Kennedy?
No,
He wasn't
that's
even
older
around
than
yet.
It had to be a Revolutionary War, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm not sure. Maybe it was Franklin or somebody like that.
I don't know.
Patrick Henry,
Could have been.
well, he said, give me liberty or give me death.
It'd say more than one thing.
Yeah, he can only be famous for one.
I know how I got into General Motors. I was working behind the desk at the bowling alley, and this girl and her boyfriend came in, and she was a Cracker Jack secretary, and she transferred from where she was working to General Motors, okay? Because they asked her to do that. And I told her, I said, I have an application over at GM. Her comment was, you want me to pull it? I says, yeah. I get a call the very next day.
Pull it.
Pull the application. I had an application in to go work at General
Put it
Motors.
on top of the list.
Yeah, in priority.
Okay? I says, yeah, if you would. She said, okay. The next day I get a call. I go there, and so help me God, if you could breathe and see, you got hired. It was that fast. I mean, the reading test, you had to have good eyes. He says, okay, look down through here and tell me what image is higher or lower. And I looked, and the guy, I says, the one on the left. He says, that's right. He says, that's the thickness of a sheet of paper. Okay? That's how good my eyes were then. Okay? And what the hell was the other thing? What the hell was the other thing? Whatever it was though, I was hired on the spot, and he says, get out of here. We'll call you.
So did you go right into a production job at that point, or what was your first job that you got?
At General Motors,
Yeah.
I was what they call a handman. That means you unloaded railroad cars
Okay.
and box cars,
Excuse me.
okay?
So you had experience in that already.
Yeah, and don't ask me why, but when they put on a second shift, I guess I have a bossy voice. And when they put on a second shift, the guy that I'm working for, he says, you want to be a supervisor on second shift? Because they were putting on a second shift.
Okay.
I says, yeah. And I asked my dad says, what the hell did you do that for? I says, Dad, when you're on salary at General Motors, you never get laid off. Okay?
So you were on a salary also, what, you weren't working on an hourly basis?
No,
Okay.
no. And,
But you were out of the union then, right? Or,
yeah, I didn't want to be in the union.
Okay, so you were out of the union also, okay.
Yeah,
did you have to join the union up to that point?
they wanted you to. You had to fill out a card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, but I had the card, which all I had to do was fill it out, and I'd have been in the union. Well, I just threw the card away because I was on salary.
Mm.
Couple of rate moves I made in my life.
But then later on, didn't that hurt you when pension or something came around? The union guys got more coverage if they were laying people off, or
There was something like that, but I don't remember.
I mean,
how that-
they gave you an early buyout, right, or something that you retired early.
Yeah, I
at
did retire
57.
early. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, that was your choice to do that, you know, I think most of the time you had when you retire early, you could have just as easily stayed working.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
couldn't.
so you must have chosen that.
Well, they gave you a buyout or a bridge or something to
Yeah.
65 or whatever the age was back
Yeah,
then.
it's hard to go back, like 30 years.
A lot of years.
Yeah. A lot of water under the bridge.
We go visit Mary Frances, and when you go up there to see Cleveland, you go right by the old plant. It's sad,
It's what?
sad looking. The GM plant.
Yeah, any closed down
Oh, yeah.
manufacturing plant always looks like hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what they manufactured.
Well, they made what, Camaros and vans and
Did you ever make one of the electric cars there?
No, they didn't make electric cars.
They didn't make any electric cars.
they're going to do a battery
Van.
plant. Remember you saying Camaros, everybody wanted to drive them,
It wasn't a Camaro.
you know?
They built full-size vans.
But they do some trucks for a while. Smaller trucks. Doesn't matter.
Too many
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
They were there once.
Then we had all the wood choppers bowling years. That was quite a long period of time. We started in high school. And
Yeah, well, we only had like
maybe we were 14 or 15 when we started bowling.
yeah. But just through high school, when I was in
Yeah.
college, we obviously
Sure.
we worked in wood shop.
Yeah. Freddie Fleischer. Remember Freddie
Oh,
Fleischer?
yes.
Yahtzee.
Is he still alive?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Jim Whalen got run over by a car, right?
Huh?
Jim Whalen.
Yeah, he got
He got
killed.
hit by,
He got killed by a car.
Yeah,
Pretty well.
yeah.
he probably running, playing with a kid or something. I always wondered about him.
Yeah, he was
Strange kid.
he was a character, a strange character, but he had a way with kids.
Yes, he
He
did.
was good with kids.
Yeah.
He started those junior leagues, and a lot of those kids became men that became pretty regular patrons at Thornton Hall for quite a long time. So he was part of those initial years. I can remember we were in a junior league. Tom, you and I were in a junior league when we first started. Remember Whitey Vaughn,
Oh, yes. Remember Joey Fagan?
Joey Fagan,
Joey Fagan, wow,
and
he's a mystery man to me.
who was the woman that ran the food counter?
Dottie?
Huh?
Dottie?
No.
Dorothy?
She was very loyal. She was there for a long time.
Yes, she was.
Ted Wise, does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Ted Wise.
Ted Wise.
He's a bowler and a car racer.
He used to race at Sharon Speedway.
Oh, yeah.
And
He's pretty good for a while.
yeah, your dad used to take me along to Sharon Speedway.
Oh, yeah.
We'd go up there pretty frequently, and then sometimes we went to Pulaski. Remember the frog pond at Pulaski?
Yeah.
There was this, on the end turn of Pulaski, there was
Yeah,
this
between
frog
the
pond.
first and second turn, there was
And
a lake down there.
And that's, if you went to Pulaski, everybody was rooting for the frog pond. It was basically waiting to see a car go off the edge of the thing and fly into the frog pond.
Did it ever happen?
Oh, yeah, and the crowd went nuts whenever it happened. It was the highlight of the night, whenever the car went into the frog.
I went to your dad to one car race, and I never went again.
Mhm.
I got tired of eating the dirt that flew in
Oh, yeah,
here.
that's part of it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, when cars pull into the parking lot, they're all sorts of colors. When they all leave, they're all brown.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I missed a lot of that, but joining the game.
Yeah. Then the bowling tournaments. I only went to like 3 tournaments. Pennsylvania State Bowling Tournament one year. We took the bus to Hazelton.
Yeah.
Played poker on the bus.
I remember his dad saying, the 3 things he likes to do best is eat, play cards, what the hell was the other thing?
Bowl.
Bowl, but, and bowling wasn't priority.
No, no. No, I can remember on the bus trip there, I made like $50 playing poker. That was a hell of a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, back then.
Yeah, we were on the bus, you know, there were 4 seats, and you could get 4 guys on the ends of each of the seats, and 1 guy in each aisle. So you'd have 6 people playing poker with a little table or something set up in the middle,
Some sort of a
card
service.
table,
Yeah.
and then we played poker on the bus. And that was I think that must have been. That was the year we did really well. We did well as a team, and I remember we had, I
We
won.
end up,
Huh?
I mean, I'm not sure if you were on the team or not, you know, but, you know, we ended up winning the state championship one year.
I remember,
And it was, that was, I think, the tournament was in Altoona. And we played poker until the wee hours of the morning.
you know,
Then we ended up trying to go out for breakfast, and it was really slow. And we ended up rushing into the bowling alley to go bowling,
no,
and we ended up winning the state tournament then, you know, with all that stuff.
Negative stuff.
Yeah.
that was Altoona?
Yeah, I think it was Altoona, I'm pretty sure. I've got, I had a picture of it. I'm not sure where it is at this point.
Do you remember going to Binghamton, New York for a
No.
tournament?
No, I
No.
don't remember that.
Well, I
Because-
remember Hazelton, because that's the time I won all the money playing
Okay.
poker, then we get
Yeah.
to the tournament, and I ended up winning the Class B All Events Championship for the state.
Oh, did you?
I averaged 205 for 9 games. You had singles, doubles, team, singles,
Yeah.
doubles, and teams.
Yeah, you bowled 9 games.
And I averaged 205. I'm still using that old Black Beauty that I got when I was 16.
Really?
It's my spare ball now. I'm
Yeah.
bowling with Marty and Chris in Kentucky.
I threw my old ball off a bridge.
Did you get a strike?
Some guy. Made a big flop. And
Kill
then,
a fish maybe.
yeah. It was pretty high, it was probably about 50, 60 feet. This thing went.
Marty had we were trying to fill the roster on one of our bowling teams just several years ago. And Marty had a guy from his work that said he bowled and he wanted to join us. And we didn't know how good he was or whatever, but he went and bought a bowling ball, and it turned out he was, you know, he really hadn't really had much experience, but he had a temper that would not go away. And every
Yes.
time, and he wasn't good enough so that he would throw strikes and feel happy. He'd always, you know, he'd come back and kick the ball return and
Yeah, he hasn't even hit the head pin or anything.
and he was, you know, and he was a big guy, and we were all kind of scared of him. I mean, he'd get so mad, he'd come back, and we'd like, couldn't say anything.
Yeah,
And then, you know, he bowled with us a couple of times, and then after the second time, he left the lanes in just after we were finished with our game. He just left, didn't say anything to anybody.
Did you favor?
And then Marty told us the next day he heard from the guy he went home and took his bowling ball in the garage and broke it up with a sledgehammer.
Imagine the sound of that.
One time, Dad, I was hunting with Mark Johnson behind the house in Newark Valley,
Yeah.
and I hear him shoot, and the walkie-talkies were in back then. I says, "Is that you shooting?" He goes, "Yeah, it was me." He said, "I just shot at a bowling ball. I wanted to see what would happen." I said, "So what would happen?" He said, "I don't know. I missed."
Too far away.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Do you guys remember any other? I'm sure we'll think of some other stories by tomorrow.
Sure, yeah.
We got about 3 hours of this now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm shutting down then.